I have some questions just as a everyman, just the brother out here, watching what's going on, because the optics are such where I feel like our Black Caucus really let us down, and looks like, man, we can't even get together on reparations. What happened, and how do we help me understand what happened
You want me to
in
go
this
first? You want
debacle?
Carolyn
How
to
does
go
it?
first? 'Cause- all right.
I'm going to let Dr. Samad go first. I'm not a legislator, but I do have a perspective. Just from my government affairs experience with the school board. So I do go to Sacramento quite frequently. But I think here again, I'm going to let Dr. Samad start, and I'll share my perspective.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's lay the landscape.
Yeah.
This is as close to reparations as we've ever gotten. Okay. Franklin Roosevelt told A. Philip Randolph, when he wanted to desegregate the federal government, the Defense Department, he says, yes, the Defense Department should be desegregated. Now go out and make me do it. Well, we have to go out and make Gavin Newsom do it. They had the votes. It had already passed the Senate. They had the votes in the Assembly. Now, for 10 legislators not to even second them, a conservative Republican introduced the bill because none of the Black Caucus wanted to introduce it because they didn't agree with it. So it came down to personalities. Okay. They didn't want to back Bradford's bill. They didn't, little things that could have been fixed later because public policy is incremental. So you take what you can get and then you go back. You had a couple of legislators who were turned out, so they didn't have anything to lose. Okay. The good thing is they can pick the bill up when they go back into the legislature. But Steve is turned out, so he can't champion the bill. So the question is, who's going to champion the bill? But they at least should have put it to a vote. Let it be up. Be voted up or voted down, but they got caught up in the minutia and the personalities, who likes who, or who wanted to drop kick who on their way out the door, and it was just a bunch of, BS, messy BS. And then, talking about they didn't want to veto on the record. Well, it's not guaranteed that Gavin Newsom would have vetoed it. In the meantime, the Latino caucus put forward, legislation to give every immigrant non-citizen an opportunity to own a home with $150,000 credit down payment. Now, Gavin Newsom did veto that.
Thank you.
But the bottom line is the reparation bill should have. Now, then there was the politics. There was $12 million attached to it, going to an organization in Northern California that nobody knew. And people were concerned about that, and in our community, it always comes down to who's going to get the money. Well, if we ain't going to get the money, then I'm not voting for it, that kind of thing. So those were factors in the decision-making process that prohibited the bill from being introduced, two bills from being introduced to the floor. I've talked to about 7 of the caucus members, and I got everybody's perspective. Bottom line is, some were upset that Steve went out front without the caucus. Then there was some, that were concerned about the language of the bill. And then there was some that was concerned about other legislation that they had up that Newsom could do some damage on. So it was a number of factors. But at the end of the day, the Black community did lose on that, because you're not guaranteed that the composition of the Assembly and the Senate is going to be the same after this election. And it's better to have something on the plate than nothing on the plate, you know, and that's what we're facing.
So I have some different information, which is interesting though. First of all, the number one goal is to present something that the governor is going to sign. Because if the governor is not going to sign something and you know it, and he's told you he's not going to sign it, it's a waste of everybody's time. It's my understanding that the governor did have issues about this bill, and it had to do with lineage, that we had not decided how that was going to work. And it's my understanding that there was a recommendation, speaking to Dr. Samad's point about the $12 million, that money go towards figuring that part out. That way the bill, let me just say this too, only the author of the bill will the governor talk to. Nobody else can make a decision about the bill. That's who he's going to talk to, is the author of the bill. And so the recommendation that the governor, I'm told, came back with was that we pursue the lineage. It's my understanding that some of that money was to go to Cal State Dominguez.
That is true.
For that purpose. And it's up to the author of the bill to decide whether to take the governor's offer or not, or recommendation. Now, I've had a lot of bills up there. If the governor makes a recommendation, you might want to consider it, because if you don't, he's guaranteed to veto it. Now, some people feel, well, let him veto it. But that's not the point. The point should be that, to your point, Dr. Massad, that we keep things moving forward. I think there was an offer to keep things moving forward, but for whatever reason, the author decided not to accept that. And that's the author's privilege. I mean, that's the author's right to do that. I probably would have done something differently, but that's just me. And you have to, I think there's a misinformation within our community about the bill process and how it works. I've heard they have the votes. So who has talked to those 42 people? Because that's what it takes. And they telling you that they were going to vote for it. Because that's what I would suggest that people find out. Well, who were the 42 people that were going to vote for it? Because that should be a matter of record. The author of the bill should have that record. Some say that there were not 42 votes. So I'm not there. I don't know. I'm not making judgment. I just think people have the misunderstanding that this reparations thing will be done in one session. And even if you listen to Dr. Weber initially, even from the original, she says this is going to take some time. You have to build. Right now, there's a poll out. 61% of the people in this state do not want reparations. So if that's true, how do we build a collaboration, a body of people that will support it? You have to educate them. And I think the caucus has a plan to do that. They have to educate their own members. They're talking about maybe doing some things to educate them, like maybe a trip back to the African American Museum. When people really don't know your history, and many of us don't know our history, so why would we expect that the other entities would know our history and understand the systemic, how deep this goes in every aspect, whether it's economic, whether it's housing, healthcare, everything, and how we've been mistreated this entire time. So we have to build a coalition of people amongst the people that can vote for this, that they understand